This will be your study guide for the end of Unit 6 test, which will be Monday on the Kidum website. If you understand the concepts that I've put on this study guide, you should do fine on the test. The first statement says blank is the y value that creates the horizontal line running through the middle of the graph. This is the midline. The next statement says blank is the distance from the midline to the top or bottom of the graph. This is what we call the amplitude. The next statement says blank is the input value required for the graph to make one full cycle. This is what we refer to as the period. So be sure you understand the difference between these three important features of trigonometric graphs. Parts of a trigonometric function. Ensure you understand which parts of the function represent which parts of the graph. So first, we have the number in front that is going to multiply by sine or cosine. This number out front is going to be the amplitude. Next, we have the number that we are multiplying by the input. This is the frequency. Then we add or subtract the horizontal translation, how much we shift it left or right. And finally, outside of the parentheses, we add or subtract the midline. So if you are asked about any of these terms, this is where you find them in the function. In the equation, y equals 4 times cosine of x over 2, the horizontal scale factor is blank. Now, horizontal scale factor is another term for frequency. So that is going to be 1/2, because this is the number we are multiplying by x over 2. X over 2 is the same thing as 1/2 times x. To find the period, we divide blank by the horizontal scale factor. Again, horizontal scale factor is another term for frequency, and you're going to divide 2 pi by the frequency, or the horizontal scale factor. In this example, blank divided by blank equals the period of blank. So we said we are going to take 2 pi and divide it by 1/2. And if we do that, 2 pi divided by 1/2 becomes 2 pi times 2, because we flip the fraction upside down. We could also write this as 2 pi over 1 times 2 over 1. It's the same thing. 2 pi times 2 equals a period of 4 pi. So as we're looking at this, a frequency or a horizontal scale factor of 1/2 means we are going to complete 1/2 of a cycle every 2 pi. Well, if we complete half a cycle in 2 pi, then it would take us 4 pi to complete one full cycle, and therefore our period would be 4 pi. Water level at a beach is modeled by f of x equals 3 times the sine of 2 pi x over 12 minus pi over 6, where x measures the hours since midnight. The amplitude is blank. Well, remember that the amplitude is the number at the front multiplying by sine or cosine. So the amplitude is 3. So the difference between low tide and high tide is blank. Well, I'll do a quick sketch here. If we have a midline and we said that our amplitude was 3, that means from the midline to the top is 3, and from the midline to the bottom is 3. So if I wanted from the bottom to the top, that is going to be 6. The horizontal scale factor is blank. Remember, horizontal scale factor means frequency. And that is the number that we multiply by the input. So the horizontal scale factor is 2 pi over 12, making the period blank hours. To find the period, you take 2 pi and you divide it by the frequency, 2 pi over 12. If you divide by a fraction, you flip it upside down. So this becomes 2 pi over 1 times 12 over 2 pi. The 2 pi's cancel out, and the period is 12 hours. The horizontal translation is blank. Well, this is what is being added or subtracted inside the parentheses from the input. So the horizontal translation is minus pi over 6, meaning the high tide happens blank hours and blank hours after midnight. So if you think about a clock as a unit circle, and I'm saying minus pi over 6, then I have gone, instead of being over directly to the right, I'm now down because the negative is a clockwise rotation. So instead of being at 3, I'm at 4. So to go from here to the top, which would be high tide, this would take 4 hours. And if I went around again, I would add 12 hours to that, so that would happen again 16 hours after midnight. Then low tide is going to be down at the bottom. So if this has been 4 hours to get to the top, and then 6 hours to get to the bottom, that's going to be 10 hours. And if the period is 12 hours, 12 plus 10 is 22 hours. So this is like saying high tide happens at 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. and low tide happens at 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. If you have any questions about any of the concepts covered on this study guide, use class time to ask for clarification before we have the test on Monday.